Hi everyone, ErravensAddiction here, or you can call me Dallas as well, since that's my name. This is the very first podcast, yay! But I did try these before, and something happened with some technical difficulties. Something along the lines got hitched up with transferring it from my iPad to YouTube, so now I'm just using my computer, and hopefully that works. We'll have to see. But, sorry about the lighting. I guess as I'm moving, my poor computer is trying to keep up with me. But yeah, so I'm hoping this all goes well this time and I can actually, start podcasting. That'd be awesome. And, yeah, I guess this will just be a little bit of everything that I get myself into. I knit, crochet, and spin, which are the three main things you'll see on here because that's what this is about. Yarn and all the goodness that comes with it. But I do dabble in jewelry making, which is more like stitch markers and stuff, but I do dabble in that. I want to get back into hand sewing because machine sewing and me don't get along at all. I don't know why. We don't get along. Polymer clay sometimes and drawing are also two things that I dabble with, but the knitting and the crocheting are definitely about the main steadiness in my life. Sorry, my back hurts and I keep slouching down. But yeah, that will be mostly what this is about. And I guess we can get into it then. This is September. It's actually September the 13th here, and that means it's getting close to Christmas. I know it's like, what is it, 9 months? 3 months away? I actually started the week after Christmas last year because I'm slow and I get sidetracked all the time. So I start early so I can just take my time. But now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty in my life of finishing projects. And that also means people think I have time to make them their Christmas gifts for their family members. So, and I always love an extra $10 here and there, So I always pick a couple of orders up to help pay for Christmas on the other hand. I have 3 siblings that I definitely always knit or crochet for. I sometimes knit or crochet for a little niece. I have both my parents, my boyfriend, his mom, and his grandma are all people I do projects for Christmas time. And that's a lot of people, especially when some of those people get more than one item. Or large items, like my grandparents and his grandmother this year are getting blankets, Afghans. Luckily, they're just lap-sized Afghans and not the full-size ones that I've been known to do. When I do things, I like to do them large. So one Christmas, my youngest brother and sister got Harry Potter themed blankets that were 6 feet by 9 feet, double thick Afghans. Now granted they were crocheted so they went a little faster, but they're massive, and I don't think people realize just how much work goes into something that massive. And when you're making more than one of them in a short amount of time, I actually made 3 that year, that's a lot of work. And I ended up actually straining a couple muscles, I think, in my hand. That was the first year I realized I had to take it easy. But we'll just get into like some of the cool projects I've been doing for my Christmas knitting. First is actually, these are not for my, and when I say finished, I hate sewing in ends and I hate cutting up the ends. So I tend to leave that until the very last second. So these might have ends on them, or they definitely have ends on them. But these aren't actually for anyone for me. They're for my boyfriend's. One aunt always orders pot holders from me so that she can give them out to her grandchildren's teachers. Which is, it's cool because, like I said, I always love an extra $10 here and there. And they adore my work. But 10 pot holders can be a bit much some days. But this is what I'm working on. Let's see if it will focus. It's a lot of white, I know. Come on. Oh, okay. We're just gonna hope for the best. Come on. There we go. It's getting as good as it's getting. But as you can see, it's just a simple granny. Let's see if we get closer and it will work. It's a simple granny circle. And then I just made a white backing, which will really freak out this computer. This is why I was trying to use my iPad. It's so much better at this. There we go. As you can see, the little ends. And then I just put a picot edge to it. A really simple chain, crochet one every other around the edging. And I didn't see a pattern for this. I mean, there could be a pattern out there for this. I didn't use one. I just kind of saw a couple pictures that I liked on Pinterest, and I went with it. And I made up my own pattern as I went. I can definitely, like I said, if I do the blog thing, I can definitely write down patterns like this, because I'd love to dabble in pattern making, and I actually have. I'm just really bad at translating my gibberish into actual words and then taking the time to actually get it formatted into some place that I can then put it on Rav. But yeah, luckily this is about the 5th one that I have finished, and this is just cotton, Walmart cotton on those big cones that are really cheap, because if you're trying to make money, you gotta make money, you know. But it's not like cheap cotton. This is definitely nice. It's the dish. What is that? What is that cotton called? Like, I don't know. You all have seen it in Michael's and all those places. And but yeah, that's the first project. I'm hoping to have these done by next week, because that way I can drop them off at my boyfriend's mom's, and she can get it there, and I'm done. And being done with a project is always the best. Now, I actually have 2 of these, but I could only find 1. And I actually did make 3 because my other sister wanted 1. But you can't tell, but this is my youngest brother and sister's Christmas gift. The youngest 2 are twins. It's a girl and a boy. And they're both people after my own heart. They're both very nerdy little children like me. And so, this little girl... Well, she's not little. She's 15. She's gonna hate me if she ever hears this and hears me calling her little. But this is hers. And if you can't tell, those are dialects from Doctor Who. And these are done in Ravenclaw colors, because Ravenclaw is her Harry Potter house. So I got one nerd on top of another nerd thing going on here. It's nice and stretchy. Now, the only issue with the real pattern is it's slightly short, in my opinion. So I always added some extra ribbing rows, always added a couple more rows than decrease, and I still feel like it's slightly short. Because I like hats that come over your ears. And I actually really love slouchy hats. So, sorry, I'm doing that slouch thing again. Sorry, my back is terrible today. But it's, but yeah, but I loved it. And this was my first color work, and it went so quickly. I literally knit each of them up in like a day. And like I said, I made 3. The boy is getting, again, he's 15, so he's not like a boy, but he's getting the same pattern, but his colors are Slytherin, so it's green and silver. And I have up where I got the pattern from. If you give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm looking away, and I'm sure that's annoying to someone, and I'm sorry. But I have all the information, so no one can be yelling at me that they didn't have the information. It's the Insulate hat, done by Amy Van D. Laar. And like I said, I'll have links to all this stuff. It's on Ravelry. It's free. It takes about 120 to 140 yards. I always played safe, so I had 2 balls of like 200 yards. Definitely was more than enough, even if you probably somehow altered it into a slouchy. But yeah, and it's DK weight, but I probably use like worsted or heavy fingering, something along those lines. I never pay attention. And it's on a 6. So it knits up super fast, and like I said, it's just adorable. Like, I can't wait until I have a moment so that I can knit up my own, because I never have time to knit up my own. But those are my finished projects like that. Now this is just cute because, like I said, I love to dabble in pattern making. So she's a little knit doll. If you can see, she just has a very basic head. And then, yes, I'm going to flash you all her body. She just has a cute little stuffed body that comes down, and then I just sewed in stocking feet just right to her. But she's supposed to be my little sister. She is a book adventurer. And then I just crocheted little clothing for her. Like I said, I'm working on the pattern. It's like I have it all written down. It's just in my gibberish. So. And then the hair. So much hair. Which is just like my little sister. So much hair. But yeah, that was just a little gift for her at one point when I was making up the patterns. And like I said, I'm hoping to actually get the patterns up, and that would be awesome. Oh, and projects that I'm actually working on at this second. They're both, the two patterns that are actually for Christmas are both my mother-in-law's. And I call her my mother-in-law just because it's so much easier. Even though it's just my boyfriend's mom. But I have some lace weight. And as you can tell, we're just at the very cusp of a crocheted shawl. Because I'm sure she'll be the only person I know who actually uses shawls. And this is actually just going to be a pattern I'm making up as I go. Figured it's not that hard. Crocheting is so much easier to just wing it. And so that's what I'm doing. And my adorable little TARDIS bag. It isn't quite as big on the inside as the outside. Yeah, it's sad it was backwards today. And then my next one in my overstuffed doxy bag. And I'll tell you at the end who makes all these bags. They're all by one person, and it's amazing. Even though that one isn't quite as big as you would hope the TARDIS would be, they are very large, and that one is easily holding a whole lace ball in it. This one actually has 3 balls of stuff in it, so it's a little tight, but I could still probably shut it. And like I said, it has 3 balls of fingering weight in it, so that's a pretty substantial and there's other stuff in here, and I'm not really sure what's the rattling, but there's other stuff in here too, so you can just imagine how much space is in one of these bags. But here, without pulling my entire project apart, again, it's another crochet, and it's again for my mother-in-law, but it is another shawl. And as you can see, I just finished the first ball of yarn on this. I have 3 balls of yarn for this. And it's such an easy pattern. It is a 4-row repeat. And by now it's so easy. I haven't even looked at the pattern. I had to remember what the pattern was called to look it up so I could tell you guys. And again, I don't know what yarn this is made. Either of these are made out of, but I can always put links up. I just now thought about how weird that might be for you guys not to know. But that pattern is, again, I have to reference it on here. Oh, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to say it. But again, I will put links up in case I'm saying it wrong. It is a Schutzler Touch. That's as good as it's getting. I was not a language person in school at all. I took sign language, so saying things out loud was not my forte at all. But it is by Archidi Flower, and it's a crocheted shawl. It's like I said, a really easy 4-repeat pattern. It's free, and actually there's like 2 versions of this, and they're both called something a little different. This is the one I went with. And it's somewhere between 600 and like 1,200 yards. I think mine will be closer to 1,200 yards just because I know I love those big shawls. Actually, I was surprised when I pulled that out of the bag just how large it was, because every time I've been pulling it out, it seems so tiny. So it was kind of nice to stretch it out like that and see how large it's really getting. It's in fingering, which is what I was using, and I think I'm definitely using a larger hook than they're calling for, because they're calling for a 3mm, and I know I'm using something much larger than that. I don't like tiny hooks. But yeah, so that's pretty easy, huh? And then my last pattern it's not for someone, it's for me. Every year my job puts on a Christmas dinner for all of its employees. Last year I made my very own sweater. I cut it down to the wire. I left work early and literally was sewing in the ends as we were driving to this place, and realized then that it didn't fit me as nicely as I want, because I like something that would be very nice and form-fitting, but I have a pear shaping, which knitting has helped me realize this, and how I need to knit to form me. And so it was very nice up here in the arms. I had made everything just very nicely, and then it flared out like a crazy person at the bottom, and then wanted to roll up at the bottom as well. So I don't know what happened there. I ended up ripping part of it apart, and the rest of it's waiting, and I won't be re-knitting it because it's in fingering weight because I'm crazy. And so this year I decided I was going to do some color work instead. And it's a bottom-up sweater. Let's see if it will focus in this dark room. But that gives you the idea. It's purple, it's bottom-up, it's color work, it's black. It's knit on, I think, size 8s, but I went to a 7 because it's not a big deal. My gauge was okay. It's just the number per stitches to make an inch that I needed wasn't off. It was just how many rows I needed to make an inch was off, and that was off on the size 8s anyways. So I'll just knit longer anyways. And this pattern is, let's see here. Let's see if I can say this one. Salir by Alexandria Vergey. And again, I'll put up a link, don't worries. Now this is a paid pattern, but she does do all the work on sizing for you. So it was very nice to know that I mean, most of them do sizing for you anyways. But this one will be very easy, I feel like, going from a larger size at the bottom to a smaller size to get more of a form fit. I do like very snug knitwear, so no, not like 3 sizes too small, like as in it fits just to a T. And oh no, it did take a size 7, so I was using the right one. It still is, that's what it is. It still was too small though, like my knitting per row, so I didn't want to throw off my counts per inch per stitch or something. So I didn't want to throw that off. Like I said, it is paid for. You're using a worsted. It's color work. This all worked up in like a week, and that's like a foot almost. And it's saying it takes about 1,500 yards. I want a tunic, and this is not knit in a tunic size, so I went ahead and bought about 200 or 400 more yards. And also the color work, as much color work as you see here at the bottom, that's not how much color work is for this pattern. It actually only calls for like the very bottom, and I just, because I'm making a tunic, I wanted more color work than that. And I have this problem with wanting balance. So if I see that much color work at the top, I kind of want more color work at the bottom than at the top, because I don't know, I'm weird like that. So it is part of that pattern, but I just flipped it a little and did some altering to it. But that is my sweater, and hopefully it will be done by December, which I don't see any problem with it. I did the last, that fingering weight sweater I was telling you about, it took me 5 weeks exactly, but I was knitting non-stop like a mad person on it. But that is all of my projects. Oh, and this is my bag that project lives in, and this is her larger sizes. I'm not sure if this is her largest size that she sells, but most of the bags this girl sells, oh, and it has zippers and it has tassels, but most of the bags she sells come in sizes this big to sizes this small. This holds an entire sweater. This is holding an entire shawl, just to give you an idea. There's an entire half of a sweater and a couple balls in here, and there's still more room. So, and that all comes from an Etsy shop called the Silver Shed USA, and I have like 4 or 5 more of her bags, and I love them. First of all, they're handmade. It's a great price, and usually she has a special or two going on, like free shipping maybe sometimes, I think. And I don't know, it was just, I loved it, so it worked. And guess we'll move on into like stash stuff. Like, my boyfriend took a trip to Chicago to see his aunt a while back, and so he stopped at, let's see if he messaged me. with the answer, because it was one of two stores. He didn't. But it was one of two stores. It was either... Something wants to tell me it was the Windy Nitty out in Chicago, but it might have also been Loopy, and I'm not really sure which one it was, but it was one of those two, and I recommend stopping at either of them, but he could only had time to stop at the one, and while he was there, I didn't go with him. He was all by himself, so he walked in, and he picked up a nice, lovely skein of Tosh Merino Light. This is the light one. And a wonderful, like, blue jeans kind of washout blue. And this is their single ply yarns. And it's amazing. And then, this is like, I don't know, some yarn that they had there. And it's... I'm not sure if it has a company name. Monos del Urguri. And basically they go into poverty places and they have women or people there help hand dye the yarns to help that area and that community raise money. And look at that dyeing. That is just in your face colors. And I can't believe he picked this one up he picked them all up on his own, but he picked this up all on his own and was like, yep, this is it. This is the color I'm taking home. So I'm pretty sure these are actually going to go into a pattern together. I don't know, something about them coming from the same place, they should stay together. And they don't look like they'll work together, but I think they will. He also stopped at and while he was there, they gave him... Oh, it's Loopy. It says it right there. It says Loopy. That's where he stopped. Just a little, inch. It's not going to show up, of course. But, the little gauge thing with some ruler on it and the logo and all that nice stuff. But yeah, they were wonderfully helpful with him. Of course, when you're buying that kind of yarn, you should be wonderfully helpful. He also was able to stop at like a little reenactment place, and they had one of these there for him. Well, I mean not for him, but for someone. And it's the I-cord makers, but they call them spool knitters. So I threw him off. He was all worried. But they had that, and then he also was able to get more hand-dyed yarn. And I'm assuming it's called Corner Prairie. It's textiles from the Interactive History Park. And it basically just says that like they might get the sheep from anywhere, but it's definitely 100% hand-spun and hand-dyed usually. And it's not the softest stuff in the world, but it's definitely cool and scrunchy and you can tell it's been handmade. And then a couple weeks back, like a month or two back, was my birthday. And we happened to live pretty close to the Mannings. So there was a couple tears when they told us they were closing. Like a lot of tears, because that's our local yarn store. And so I splurged a little and went up for me and a couple friends' birthdays. And while I was there, I couldn't pass up these. They're called footnotes. Do you see those colors? Purple and blue and green and this reddish brown that's not really showing up like it should, but... And no, I'm not... It says footnotes. I'm sure it's for socks. I don't really make socks, but this is gonna be a crazy hat! And then last but not least is my coolest project on the... But like I said, I loaned out my... spindles, so it's on hiatus at the moment. I'm not sure if this is going to work. But do you see all those little tiny round packages? Those are each a different sample of fleece from a different breed of sheep. There is 92 different breeds in this box, or was. There's a couple missing because I'm working on them. There was 92 different. There are each a 1/4 of an ounce, and they will become a major project at the end that I'm hoping to enter in probably at least one competition, because of a coat of many. How did I say it? It's a coat of many fleeces, like a coat of many colors. So I think that's going to be a very cool project as I work on it very, very, very slowly, because they're all of them I think are raw. So I have to wait until it's dry enough, which it hasn't been lately, to clean them, and I have to have time to clean them. And then I prep them with combs, and then I hand spin them with a drop spindle. So it's going to take a while. It's probably going to be a very long process. But yeah, that's about everything, I think. Oh, and the roving came from the fiber mine. The fiber mine. Again, there's going to be a link or a correction if there was any misunderstanding with any of these names. But she's in Canada, and she was amazingly helpful when I contacted her about this project. She only had up about 50 breeds, and they were only in 1 ounce increments, and I, first of all, did not have the money for the 1 ounce increments, but I also didn't need a whole ounce of each breed. So I contacted her, and she was more than helpful in rounding up not only the 50 that she had, but more. And she even told me she went into like personal stash and stuff to get me all of the ones I wanted, and send them to me. And now it is Canada, so the shipping was a little like but it was worth it. I mean, where else do you find that many breeds? But yeah, that's about everything. I hope you enjoy, and I'm not just talking to myself. See ya.